Hello Soul Tribe, hello Soul Family, welcome to this channel where we heal and integrate because consciousness is the new frontier. We are healing, removing distorted perceptions from our psyche. We are integrating, remembering the truth of who we are, and who we are is the divine human spirit, connected to God, connected to life, connected to each other, connected to all that is. Please don't mind any noise in the background. There is a little bit of construction, and but the show must go on, right? As long as you are able to hear me, that's the most important thing. All right, so who am I? I am Spirit Pemi. I'm an energy reader, I'm an energy healer, and I'm also a spiritual advisor, particularly to empaths, to the star seeds, to the light workers, to those highly sensitive people that have unique spiritual mission in this world, or should we say a unique spiritual calling in this world. Hence, they are often referred to as well in the so-called New Age community as the chosen ones. Don't forget to like these videos, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share with kindred spirits as well. And I have to let you know, as we keep going along, this channel is going to really be tailor-made to this specific group of people that I've been mentioning here. And so you might find that it's not going to be resonating with many people, and many of you are of course going to end up having to unsubscribe, and that's absolutely fine. You know, if this doesn't speak to you, if this doesn't make any sense to you, you don't have to continue watching this channel. All right, thank you so much. Now let's talk about today's topic, which is, why do narcissists hate God? So please remember that I'm coming from a spiritual angle when it comes to my content on this channel. So this may not resonate with everyone, of course. For over 30 years, I've studied narcissism, and my guides took me through both an official as well as an unofficial initiation into the mysteries of life with regards to this particular topic. And so one of the many things I found fascinating about narcissists is that they have a very strange relationship with God and spirituality in general. So narcissists are either blatantly haters of God, or they are just those people that will attack things, all things spiritual, by belittling or mocking or even destroying anything that has to do with God. Sometimes they even pretend, of course, to be very spiritual or religious, whilst of course all that they would be doing is practicing lower fourth dimension spirituality, which is of course black magic or dark magic, or witchcraft. That's what we call it here in Africa. But I understand from a spiritual perspective that witchcraft is not all together bad or evil. There's good witchcraft and there's bad witchcraft, all right? So just like there's light and dark, so there are certain people who are called witches and so forth, but they would be practicing white witchcraft or something like that. They would be white witches. So here we are referring to those, and white witchcraft or white witches, it's not isn't the race, okay? It speaks to just the nature, the light aspect of it, the good side of it, all right? So narcissists would typically be practicing the black witchcraft or the dark magic, okay? So and they would be doing this even if they are Christians, of course, and thus becoming the ultimate wolves in sheep's clothing, because they'll be pretending to be spiritual or religious, but all they'll be doing is just practicing fourth dimensional spirituality, which is mind control, and so they will be presenting themselves as one thing on the surface, but behind the scenes there'd really be something else. All right. Or one of the things that they might do, with regards to their relationship with God, is they'll simply bypass the whole God concept altogether and practice just fourth dimension spirituality for the purpose of destruction. All right. So basically the point here is that a narcissist will either just blatantly hate God and want nothing to do with God, or they will pretend to love God and practice some kind of religion or spirituality, whilst behind the scenes just really using those tools from that particular religion or spirituality to practice dark magic. And then another thing that they might do as well is to just basically have nothing to do with God whatsoever and just simply practice fourth dimension spirituality. So they'll still be practicing spirituality, but it would be clear that they are just, dark magicians. They will just blatantly be practicing dark magic. So the point here is that narcissists somehow cannot stand God. Okay. And even when they practice fourth dimensional spirituality by being part of a religion, for example, they still do this in such a distorted way that it never goes beyond the surface level stuff. This is where you will hear Christians and sometimes even pastors, right? Leaders within the religions saying things like, you are too spiritual. Why are you so spiritual? Why are you too spiritual? But this is someone who claims to be practicing spirituality themselves. And that's because in true reality, narcissists just cannot stand God, and they will use him, of course, to secure narcissistic supply. So many a times when a narcissist does anything that has to do with God, religion, or spirituality is really to secure narcissistic supply. And if you don't know what narcissistic supply is, of course, it's that energy that the narcissist derives from either harming someone or, from getting that person's attention. So they're either getting attention, admiration, praise, people being addicted to them, those kind of things, people being afraid of them. That's narcissistic supply. And there's also, that louche energy, which is the negative side of that attention, that they just want attention. So narcissistic supply is attention. It's negative attention and positive attention. So the positive attention I've already just mentioned now. The negative attention has to do with, you falling apart, you crumbling, you getting destroyed psychologically or, emotionally, you just, your psyche just being dismantled and fractured. All right. So that gives them a sense of power. They feel very powerful for being able to basically dismantle another human being. That gives them a sense of significance. All right. So that's narcissistic supply. And they will use religion and spirituality to get this. They'll say they believe in God and turn around and mock you when you pray. Once again, that's when they're practicing religion or spirituality. The false version of it or the fake version of it. They'll go to church and manipulate devastated women, and often multiple women at the same time, sleeping with them. They will be the pastor that cheats on his wife with church members or steals money from the congregation, or manipulates them into entering into get rich quick schemes. All right. There is so much I could say about the things that narcissists do to show that they hate God. But for the sake of this video, we will focus on why they hate God. I'm looking forward to hearing, your take on why you think narcissists hate God, because I'm sure you've come across narcissists yourself, especially if you're an empath. And, what have you observed with regards to the narcissist relationship with God? Comment down below. So I want you to also please note that, when it comes to narcissists, I'll often, if not always, use the words he or him. And this is because, as much as there are many narcissistic women out there in the world, the reality, and I've dealt with some of them myself, but the reality is that statistically speaking, majority of narcissists are actually men. All right. And so I'll mostly be using the word he, as I'm referring to the narcissist. But in this particular video, of course, he will also be referring to God as well. Don't take it personally. I know that God is both the feminine and masculine principle, but I'll just be using I'll be using he for God. All right. So now you are welcome to replace he with she, if that makes you feel comfortable. All right. So let's see. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to also just issue a disclaimer about is that, of course, I don't believe that narcissists are evil per se, inherently on their own as people. All right. What I really believe has happened to them, of course, is that, they have been broken to a level where their level of unconsciousness has been infiltrated, all right, by an evil force. Okay. And I believe that this level of unconsciousness with which they approach life is what makes them evil. Okay. And very dangerous, of course. That's why I'm doing this kind of content. And of course, I believe that, this level of consciousness constitute demon possession, because, I'm a spiritual practitioner and I call it out for what it is. And so, of course, it is pure evil in its very nature. So it's not the person themselves, the person who's probably in some corner there or whatever. The person has been taken over by a dark force, and there's little to no chance of recovering the person, because remember, society facilitates this, society incentivizes this demonic possession. So there's little to no chance of the person actually, waking up from that unconsciousness and taking over their body, which has been taken over by, demonic entities. All right. So also, I don't condone any attack on anyone deemed to be a narcissist, even though, narcissists themselves abuse others. But I don't condone anyone attacking narcissists, because I really believe that this would really be playing into their territory. This will be us dropping ourselves to their standard, and that would be exactly what they would be wanting, because the demons definitely want human beings to behave in unbecoming ways. Of course, it doesn't mean that we are meant to tolerate bullshit from narcissists or anyone. Not at all. We don't have to tolerate their toxicity or bullshit, but we also don't necessarily have to just go out there and be attacking people and just becoming narcissistic and sociopathic ourselves. All right. Okay, so now let's dive right into this. Why do narcissists hate God? Well, number one, okay, I've got 7 reasons why the narcissist hates God. 7 reasons. Number one is that he is their main competition for attention, for energy, and other resources. All right. So that means when people focus on God, especially the narcissist's partner, all right, that means that the narcissist then doesn't get to have the attention which they so desperately crave. And even if it's only for a few minutes a day, and here we're also talking about, the mental real estate. So what I'm saying here is that the narcissist want to occupy your mind. All right. They want to occupy, they don't want to not have your attention. Okay. The narcissist want to be the most important thing in your life. And they want to be even more important than God. He wants you to be preoccupied with him. He wants to be the only one you are thinking about 24/7. You can't be thinking about anything else, let alone God, especially not God. All right. He wants to spiritually possess you. And to the most part, when you've become infatuated with a narcissist, this is demonic possession. That's why the connection feels spiritual and it's so hard to break. All right. So, of course, but alas, how can he do this if God stands in his way? Okay, how can he possess you if God is standing in his way? All right. And the narcissist can't stand you spending your resources on your spiritual development. They want you to spend it on them. So, of course, they will rage at you for not being responsible when you spend money on God stuff, on your own self-development, on, you have to take a trip, you have to take a retreat, you have to go to church, you have to do certain things. They will rage at you. They will call you irresponsible. They will call that irresponsible spending. They won't tell you the truth, that the reason why they're actually upset is the fact that you are spending all of these resources on someone else or something else other than them. All right. So that's really what's happening there. So this is also another reason why your relationship with a narcissist often begins to dismally crumble when a child comes into the picture. Because once again, when someone else comes in that you have to give all your attention to, the narcissist cannot handle this. All right. The narcissist cannot handle this because that's another competition. And so, the relationship, the narcissist will start to mistreat you terribly, because you don't know, you don't realize that you're actually being punished for falling pregnant, for having a child. All right, so that's number one. God is the narcissist's main competition for attention, energy, and other resources. So of course God then becomes the narcissist's enemy, right? Number 2, God is the narcissist's true kryptonite. Okay, so this God is literally that one being that that is the narcissist's biggest weakness. It's that thing that can, or that being that can really cause great harm to the narcissist. All right, only God's presence, what is called divine presence, or what is called consciousness, right? So depending on, what form of spirituality you are practicing, if you're a Christian, you will call it God, right? And then if you are a conscious person, you will say consciousness. and then, or you will call it source, or you'll call it the universe. And I know Christians often get offended by us calling God the universe, because they see that the universe is a created thing. But usually when conscious people refer to God as the universe, they're not really referring to the universe as in that created thing. They are actually referring to the greater being, that the creator behind, or rather the universe behind the universe. That's what they are referring to. And so that being, that the presence of God, the presence of the divine, is that one thing that can actually be dangerous to the narcissist, because it can destroy the narcissist's ego. Because God is a consuming fire, and egos are like wood before the divine presence of God. All right. And of course, here we're talking about the toxic ego of the narcissist. There's a healthy ego, which is another story for another time, but here we're talking about that unhealthy ego, which is the personality or the persona that is made up of a false self that is very destructive. All right, the low aspect of a human being. Since the narcissist self or false persona is wholly made up of this false ego, or this lower ego, the me versus you type of ego, they are inherently uncomfortable with God's presence, because it signals certain demise for them. As much as this may seem far-fetched, please know that the ego and the narcissist can sense when the presence of God is active in their space. And this is when they usually begin to rage or run away. So they will be throwing tantrums. They'll be doing all sorts of strange things whenever it is that the presence of God has been activated in their space. All right, because darkness cannot stand light. This is also why a narcissist will often discard you if you don't know. So basically, the minute you become very, very spiritual and you have a narcissist in your life, let's say you are in a relationship with a narcissist, the minute you start really practicing true and authentic spirituality and you become devoted to God, the narcissist will definitely begin to discard you, or they will just simply discard you. All right, don't mind any noise in the background. The narcissist will discard you, and you, if you don't know what is going on there, maybe you don't know that you're dealing with a narcissist, you'll think there's something wrong with you. You'll think the narcissist is rejecting you. You'll think the narcissist is rejecting you because of something that you have done. What you will not realize is that the reason why they are discarding you is actually because they are uncomfortable with the presence of God that you are generating there. And so whilst you are mourning and grieving the loss, you are not realizing that that was not really rejection. That was actually God's protection, because the narcissist was actually running away. So God is the narcissist's kryptonite. All right. So number 3, God represents truth, which is something a narcissist cannot stand. Just like the Pharisees and just like their father, the devil, the narcissist's native language is lies. So of course, God is going to be a problem for the narcissist, because he demands us to be honest, right? First with ourselves and then with the world. To be honest with the world about who we are. And, this is because only truth can set us free. All right. But the narcissist cannot be free. And the narcissist is not free, because the narcissist is demon possessed. He has traded his authenticity in exchange for the ability to control and manipulate others. And so he cannot stand truth, which will, of course, expose him. And he also cannot stand truth because it will dismantle the house of cards on which his whole life is built. So this is why the narcissist cannot stand God, because God is very dangerous to the narcissist. So number 4, God being light is how the narcissist gets to see himself. All right. And he gets to see how that his perspective on reality is distorted. And of course, the narcissist benefit greatly from this distortion of life. His approach to relationships, this one-upmanship type of relationship, this, lose-lose type of relationships, those types of things. Because those are the things that he benefits from. Those are the things that he derives great pleasure and, narcissistic supply from. he cannot allow himself to be in a position whatsoever where he gets to then reflect on the reality of the fact that that's not a healthy way to do life. That's not a healthy way to interact with other human beings. All right. So he doesn't want anything that will convince him otherwise. He doesn't want anything that will make him see, his wrongness, basically, for how he's approaching life. The narcissist hates accountability. So this is why they avoid self-reflection. And so God always holds up a mirror in front of us so that we can see ourselves for who we are, so that we can see our lives for what they really are. And this is not something that the narcissist can stand. All right. The narcissist does not want to handle that. The narcissist does not want to deal with that. And so, of course, that means the narcissist will want nothing to do with God. This is why the narcissist hates God. That's number 4. Number 5. The narcissist does not really understand God. Okay. The narcissist does not understand God, and neither does he like God. Okay. God is in a much higher dimension than a narcissist can fathom, since the narcissist can only operate from the mind and body perspective. Understand this. When a narcissist does spirituality, he does it through his mind and not his spirit. So to connect to our spirit, which is one with the Spirit of God, we will need to have empathy. All right. Now, the narcissist has little to no empathy. And so because of that, they are stuck in the 4th dimension, in the dimension of the mind. They are not able to tap into their spirit essence. Okay. And so even though they can often, come across as very advanced spiritually, all that they will be doing is applying mental tools and mental tricks, 4th dimensional spirituality tricks. Yes, they may use a whole lot of things, and they can do a lot. They can do a lot of things with that 4th dimensional spirituality, but it's still 4th dimensional spirituality. They still don't have access to God because they don't have access to themselves. Okay. So God is way above the 4th dimension, of course, and this baffles them. So a narcissist will be convinced that they are tapping into God, but there'll always be an aspect of them that knows that they are not tapping into God, because if you've ever practiced 4th dimensional spirituality, you'll know there's still a very, very strong level of disconnection that you are feeling. You will be manifesting things, you will be performing miracles and things like that, but there will still be that connection. If I'm sure by now you would know that a narcissist typically feels like there's a thick wall between himself and life. They feel like they're not really part of life. And that's because they are disconnected from life, of course, and so that disconnection, they can't get rid of it. No matter how many miracles they're able to perform, whether they are able to go to outer space and come back, whether they are so intellectually advanced and so forth, the mere fact that they are disconnected from spirit and from God still makes their spirituality very, very futile when it comes to them really understanding who God is. And so because they can't really get to understand who God is, that frustrates them, and that makes them to not like God, because narcissists despise things that they can't have. They despise things that somewhat reject them. Even if those things are rightfully rejecting them, they despise them. All right. So also the narcissist hates something that they cannot conquer. So because with all the efforts that they'll be trying to connect with God, or every effort except for the right effort, which is connecting to their empathy, which is them facing the reality of who they are and, healing and transcending that. Because they're not willing to do that, they'll be putting up a whole lot of efforts, putting in a whole lot of efforts to try and connect with God. And all those efforts, of course, will be futile. And because those efforts are futile, they will blame God for it, and they will be upset because it's like, and when they're trying to connect with God, they're not connecting with God for the sake of having a relationship with God. They are doing it for the sake of conquering God. They want to connect with God, to conquer God, to become more powerful than God, or to use God as some kind of a genie. And I myself, as someone in the spiritual field, I experienced this and witnessed this quite a lot with the clients that would be narcissistic. When they come to me, they're not coming to understand how it is, what is it that could be happening in their lives, and what is it that the guys want them to know. No, they literally just want to, slot in whatever money that they've slotted in, and they want me as a spiritual practitioner to basically make things happen for them, to tell them, how is it that they can get this man that might be, married? How is it that they can, and if whatever solution that I'm giving them should not have anything to do with them, self-reflecting and introspecting. No, they want those quick solutions that have to do with the outward and the surface level stuff. All right. So those are those situations. Narcissists typically treat God as some kind of a genie that, is supposed to just basically give them what they want, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to change. They don't have to develop themselves. They don't have to grow. They don't have to be kind. They don't have to, cultivate their empathy. They don't have to do anything that has to do with what it means to be a true, worshiper of God. Nothing whatsoever. They will just do their own thing, and they expect God to just basically, answer their prayers whenever it is. And typically also narcissists would be those people that will come through to my spiritual practice very angry because things are not happening the way that they want. And they'll be angry at God. They will not be open or willing to reflect on what it is that they could have done to get to where they are, or for things to have turned whatever direction that they've turned. No, a narcissist is always going to be blaming someone else. And when it comes to God, of course, God is the greatest scapegoat for the narcissist. All right, because the narcissist cannot conquer God. So he doesn't like God in that regard. Number 6. They hate God because they secretly wish he didn't exist. This is because if God exists, then that means the narcissist has to account for all his dark and evil behavior. All right. All the horrible things that he keeps doing to people. If you know a narcissist, you know how evil a narcissist can be towards other human beings. And they are doing this because secretly they believe, they are hoping and wishing, and somehow it's almost as if they believe that by hoping and wishing that God doesn't exist, that makes God to not exist. You understand? And so they are doing all those things, and, also just, in their twisted, distorted way of thinking, they are thinking that by believing that God doesn't exist, that makes God doesn't exist. And because God doesn't exist in their distorted minds, they believe that God doesn't exist. All right. And so because they believe that God doesn't exist, then they feel that they can get away with all the crap that they are doing, because the reason why they don't want God to exist is in order for them to be able to get away with all the evil that they're perpetuating in the world. All right. All the harm that they are causing to humanity, they believe that God doesn't exist and God cannot hold them to account. They want that to be the case, but of course, that's only in their distorted reality. That's not in the true reality. All right. So they hate God because they secretly wish he doesn't exist. Number 7, and our final point. They hate God because they hate themselves. All right. So remember, the narcissist has rejected themselves. They've rejected themselves because they believe that their true authentic self is not perfect enough, is not good enough. They believe that the true authentic self, there's something wrong with it. Typically this is because this person experienced some kind of rejection somewhere, somehow, at some point in their life. Something happened somewhere. Things happen to all of us as human beings, right? But when it comes to a narcissist, whatever traumas that they experienced, instead of, looking for a healthier way to deal with that trauma, the narcissist decided to strike a deal with the devil. You understand? And that deal had to do with the fact that the devil would give the narcissist, and this is unconscious, of course, the devil would give the narcissist superior intellect skills, or intellectual skills. All right. So this means the mind power to mind control, to control other people, to manipulate, to use fourth dimensional spirituality tools, because remember, this contract, as part of the contract, the demons, demonic entities and principles, basically, they enter into the narcissist body and they inhabit the narcissist body. So those demonic entities, they supercharge the narcissist with extra, powers. So the narcissist becomes slightly superior to your typical human being because of the demons that are assisting them. You understand? And so because of that, that contract, that deal, what the narcissist had to sacrifice in order to get all of those things is his true self. All right, so now that true self is shoved in some corner somewhere, and it only exists to keep this person alive. Okay, to just make sure that the person keeps going, but everything else that's functioning in that person is the demons. Okay, the personality, everything, it's just the demons that are doing this. Yes, it's painful, it's sad, it's horrible. I mean, this is something that for many, many years, I really wished I never had to have any conversation with anyone about. I really wish that I never ever had to do this kind of message. You have no idea the level of trouble that I've gotten into from my guides because I've been trying to run away from having this kind of conversation, doing this kind of videos. I'm going to tell a story one of these days where you will begin to understand what my guides had to do to get me to do this kind of videos. All right. So it's so sad. It's so sad, especially for someone like myself as an empath, to come to a point, because I want to believe in the goodness of humanity. I want to believe in, hope and, people changing and all sorts of things like that. And yet I had to deal with a very, very painful reality that speaks to the fact that there are some people in this world who are just not going to change. The breakdown in their psyche has gone so far, so far, that it's like almost impossible for them to come back from how far they've gone. You understand? And as a result of that, the rest of humanity needs to be warned about such kind of people, particularly empaths, particularly light workers, seekers, highly sensitive people, your INFJs. All right. Those kind of people need to be aware of this kind of demonic activities that are taking place in the world right now. Now that the narcissist has rejected themselves, of course, they believe that God has rejected them. And this is crazy. I need to explain this. Here's the thing. When you reject yourself, you are rejecting God. All right. Because your true and authentic self is intrinsically linked and connected to God. Okay. Because your true self is first and foremost spirit. All right. And that spirit is one with the spirit of God. All right. And then right after that spirit is basically, manifesting in this world as you, as an aspect of you, the person. All right. So, and then that person would have typically been a child, of course. And this child would be an innocent little child who has maybe some faults or whatever it is that they have. And maybe they're going through some kind of trauma. All right. And so now the narcissist, by rejecting this child, this aspect of themselves that they see as defective, they are automatically rejecting the spirit behind that child. And by rejecting the spirit behind the child, they're automatically rejecting God. Okay. And so now with that rejection being there, that creates that disconnection between the narcissist and God. Okay. So as long as the narcissist is a narcissist, they are at war with God. Okay. But because the narcissist is very distorted in their way of thinking, they also are not able to understand or to grasp the fact that the reason why there's a disconnection between themselves and God is because of their own rejection of their wounded self. Instead, the narcissist, like any self-respecting narcissist does, the narcissist blames God for the disconnection between himself and God. The narcissist blames God for his unhappiness. The narcissist blames God for everything that's wrong with him or his life. You understand? And that's because the narcissist, of course, has no capacity to take any responsibility for himself or to reflect. His way of perception with regards to life is upside down. You understand? It's unrealistic and it's irrational. But the narcissist, believes that God hates him, and he doesn't realize that it's him that hates God. All right. And you'll see this also even, in a relationship with a narcissist. When you confront a narcissist about their misbehaviors, about their abuse, for example, or any negative thing that they would be doing, the narcissist will take it as an attack. They will take it as if you hate them. Instead of the narcissist looking at what it is that they have done for real, and seeing, okay, fine, I see I've done this and this and that. And here's the thing, covert narcissists will apologize all the time. You understand? But even with that apology, the narcissist is not really sorry. In their head, they're thinking, I'm just apologizing to just shut you up, but I'm going to make you pay for trying to hold me to account, because how dare you hold me into account? Why would you attack me like that? Because they take any confrontation as an assault. They take it as an attack. When you refuse a narcissist anything, when you say, you know what, whenever it is that you are in my presence, you are very rude, you are very disrespectful, you are just mean towards me, so I'm not going to spend time with you. The narcissist is not going to take that as, okay, how is it that maybe I can improve my behavior so that I can have a better interaction with this person? No, the narcissist will take that as an insult, as an attack. You understand? So it's always someone else who's at fault when it comes to a narcissist. They don't have the capacity to self-reflect and to, hold themselves to account. You understand? So this is why the narcissist thinks God hates him. And yet it's actually the other way around. But now the narcissist also cannot, allow himself to, be the one that hates God. They will not admit to be the one that hates God. And sometimes the narcissist might say, I hate God. They might even, say all sorts of horrible things about God, in a rage. But majority of the time, the narcissist would rather say that, it's God who hates him and all sorts of, and even when they say they hate God, it would be, to sort of like throw a tantrum with hopes that you and God would, appease him. You understand? It wouldn't be because, it's really a true, genuine, authentic rage where maybe someone is frustrated. A normal human being might get frustrated and say some negative things about God. You understand? But a narcissist, they say those negative things with hopes that they can pull God's strings or your strings. But in reality, they really believe that it's not them that hates God. It's God who hates them. The narcissist would be evil to us. The narcissist would hate you. And they would literally be doing things to trigger you. They would be doing things to bait you. They would be doing things to sabotage and destroy your life because they hate you. All right. So the narcissist would be doing all of these horrible things because they hate you. But when you call them out for that, they will say that you hate them. This is also another reason why the narcissist has this irrational belief that everyone hates them and everyone is jealous of them. All right. But what they're not realizing is that they are the one that hates everyone and they are the one that is envious of everyone else around them. Do you see that? So the narcissist is constantly projecting their negativity on everyone else. And so they're doing that on God as well, or to God or with God as well. All right. So that's basically those 7 reasons that I managed to come up with as to why the narcissist hates God. I don't know if you have observed any other reason, and I'm sure you've come across a few narcissists in your life. And so what have you noticed with regards to, the narcissist relationship with God? Because it's a very, very interesting one. Narcissists don't like God at all. God is their number one enemy, and you will not see it if you are not observant or you don't know what you're dealing with. You will not notice it. But the narcissist actually, because also the narcissist tries very hard to hide this. That's why the narcissist can often say, no, I believe in God. But when you look into it, when you really, really look into it, the narcissist wants nothing to do with God. The only time they will do anything that has to do with God would be for show, would be to try and convince those that are observing them that they are a godly person. They will be virtue signaling, but they wouldn't really be, genuinely trying to connect with God whatsoever. All right. Thank you so much, Soul Tribe, Soul Family, for spending time with me on this channel and on this transmission. Until next time, remember, consciousness is the new frontier. Namaste.